All right, man, here we are. Episode 29 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. Today is October 14th, and I know that last episode I said that this was going to be up on this Sunday, but some circumstances had changed, and I had the opportunity to record this on time. And it looks to be a bit of a chilly day out, admittedly. Last night we got some rain, which was great. We could always use the rain. Today looks to be a little cloudy out, a bit of a chill in the air, but the cats don't mind. They're sleeping on the comfortable beds we provide, so their fur will protect them. And if we go out, we're going to want to layer up, wear our jackets, be comfortable, be warm, and get the work done. So this episode is going to start off with a bit of a somber note, and I won't dwell on it for too long. But I read last night that Mike Schank of most famously American Movie, which I've talked about a bunch on the show, best friend to Mark Borchardt. He's also a classically trained guitarist and member of the MKE Alano Club, has tragically passed away at the age of 56. Um, I was not aware that he was dealing with a cancer for a little while that eventually succumbed, and he passed away yesterday morning. And it's one of these situations where I don't get too upset over a lot of celebrity deaths. Obviously, you look at even some recent deaths. You look at the late great Jean-Luc Godard. You look at the late great Cinehphoria, who had a very long, fulfilling life. Who both blessed us with their art, and we are the wiser for it. Um, but it's just tragic to see somebody like Mike succumb to this. And it's just one of these things, man. You watch American Movie, and you just see Mike in it. He's just relentless positivity, even at the lowest of times, man. When he's got everything against him, when he's just happy to be there, to help, to hang out. He has his own frustrations, as evident in the film. There's a great scene where he talks about, which is a deleted scene where he talks about how he'd rather just be at home listening to AC/DC. And he's a guy who you watch the film and you start off with one impression of him, but then as he goes on, man, he's this just incredible classical guitarist, man. And anyone who knows anything about guitars or guitar playing, man, it ain't you don't learn that overnight, man. I played guitar casually for a little while, and I was alright. I could just do very standard riffs, chords, that sort of stuff. But classical guitar is a whole other area, man. It's something that you really train for, like any skill, man. You just put hours and hours into it. It's total precision, and you watch him in the film, and he is just nailing these complicated songs. And you go on YouTube and see videos of him just playing. There's a great 10-minute video that I was watching a handful of today that I had seen before of Mike just playing classical guitar, and he can play it blindfold, and he's just, gosh, man, he was just such a strong and smart guy, man. And hell, man, he was 27 years sober this year. Jeez Louise, man, you kidding me? Up to his final days, man, he never gave up. He was like, you know what, man, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this till the end. And we are all the better for knowing of Mike Shank. And it's just a total a real loss, man. I mean, I know it goes without saying, life lost, especially at a young age, is so tragic, but it's a situation where what I was saying before is that, I'd never met the man, and a lot of these celebrities who pass, I don't have any kind of celebrity worship. I don't hold a celebrity on any kind of higher level. I look at them as people who put in the work and did what they had to do to get the job done. And that's what Mike did, man. He got the job done, and it was just a real gut punch to hear that, man. So people closer to him probably will have more beautiful things to say than I can. I can only speak from my own personal experience, but American movie has been such a huge part of my life, and what I mentioned before, films that are no longer favorite films, but are films that you just find as part of your DNA. Um, and even some of my even some of my favorite films are not. Sorry, I got something in my throat. I tried recording this like 5 times, man. I just got water with me. There are those films that are no longer just favorites, but they're, like I said, they're part of you. Where it's what I said before. It's like if you're in a relationship with somebody who you just have deep feelings for. You can tell somebody that you love them, and which is true, of course, but that feeling, that emotion that you get from that person, or in this case, in arts. I mean, there are some of my favorite films that I don't have in that category. I only have maybe a handful of films like that where it is truly just above being an all time favorite. It is something more that connects with you from personal experience, or whether it be nostalgia or anything like that. So, and especially with this being more so than some of these other films, a documentary. So you are seeing Mike Schank as is, and he's just every time he's in the film, man, he's just like a beacon of light, beacon of hope, man. And I think we could all learn a lot from him. With our lives, they just get so crazy, and we get stressed out about the little things in life, and we just sit around and we go, oh, this is the end of the world because I can't do this, right? I'm not able to do that, or I can't have this. It's sort of like, man, you have no idea how lucky you got it, man. To be alive, to be here, man. I know that things get down, man. We all get down. We all have dark days, But it's all about pushing through, man, and getting the work done, and not sitting around and waking up one day and wondering, oh man, I wanted to be this. I wanted to be a great painter. Or I wanted to be a great filmmaker. I wanted to be a great writer. Well, what did you do in that time? I just kind of sat around and didn't really do a whole lot, and just watched TV and played video games. And it's like, well, were you happy in that time? It's like, yeah, sometimes it's sort of like, right, man, well, this is your life, man. It could happen to any of us at any time, man. It could happen to me, you. I ain't trying to preach, man, but life's too short for this kind of stuff, man. You really gotta, if you want to do something, man, you gotta do it. You can't sit around and just wait for somebody to hand it to you, because it ain't gonna happen, man. I mean, it's just like life's too short, man. That's all it is, you know. And we just gotta make the best of it, man, because it could happen to any of us at any time. And it goes without saying, but really, the value of a life is something to not to be played with, I guess. So I raise a glass. I don't have a glass right here. I wish I had a glass. I raise why not? I got a can right here. Raising the can to the late, great, never forgotten Mike Schank, man. Thank you for everything. All right, man. So, as I say for the past couple weeks, the 2018 watches are going very well, man. I tell you, 2018 is really one of the best years I've seen for films, and I don't really push my Letterboxd on the show enough. Honestly, I use Letterboxd for myself. I don't really care about. I sometimes I'll look at some like general ratings, but I think ever since like I see stuff like Blonde and Joker get like kind of like review bombed, I'm just like, nah, I'm not really interested in what kind of the mass opinions of films like those are. I'm kind of more interested in what my close acquaintances opinions are in those films. But on Letterboxd, I have my rankings list on there for 2018, and yeah, I've been catching up on some stuff, doing some rewatches, and let me tell you, man, there's been some films that have gone up, there's some films that have gone down, but I'm looking at it right now, and if I stopped right now, sorry, my top 10 is looking pretty damn good, man. I'm pretty happy with this list right here, and I still have other stuff I have to watch, man. There's still some other big titles I have to rewatch. A couple big titles. I think I've seen most of the big titles from 2018, man. I don't. Let me look at my list here actually, because I know there's a couple films. Let's see, like Border is a big one I haven't seen yet. Ash is Purest White, Blind Spotting. Long Day's Journey into Night, and Elephant Standing Still. These are big ones that I haven't seen yet, but there are still some big ones that I think might make the list that I need to rewatch soon. like Stan and Ollie and The Other Side of the Wind. Actually, I just watched They'll Love Me When I'm Dead, which won't make the list, unfortunately, but fantastic documentary about the failed production of The Other Side of the Wind. And you know, it really just kind of, you watch it, and it kind of just made me sick at times, the way that Hollywood will just take these legends and just throw them aside. And the film talks about how Orson was having trouble getting funding, and he was practically begging, even though he's made the studio all this money, and he's made these classic films. I mean, made the magnum opus of cinema, well, a lot of people would say, and they just were like, well, you know, you're old news and stuff. And, you know, you think that's an old practice, but it's not. Hey, George Romero had trouble getting funding for Land of the Dead. George Romero is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. You crazy, man? Come on. I mean, all right, maybe horror is not your thing, even though he did other non-horror films. Check out The Night Riders if you haven't. That's one of his best films, in my opinion. Actually, probably in his top 5 best, but, you know. Look at Scorsese, man. He couldn't get The Irishman. He had trouble getting The Irishman funded and into theaters, man. It's insane. You know, his film, they said, you know, it's just insane, man, how an artist like Scorsese is relegated to, or delegated to, just, you know, being dumped on Netflix. And you know, these films get talk and stuff, but it's sort of like, you know, you could say, oh, well, the films are too long and stuff. And I'm like, I don't, you know, the last Avengers movie was 3 hours, man. Come on. And I know that the Avengers is, you know, I know that's not totally a fair comparison, because the Avengers is going to make a boatload more money than the Irishman. Let's just face it, man. Which is fine, to each their own. I mean, people have different taste in films. You know, the Marvel stuff's not for me, but people enjoy it, so I would never try to convince anyone not to watch it. But it's just like, I forgot who was saying it, and I don't want to misquote anyone, but somebody it was a big filmmaker who was asking why these films couldn't coexist theatrically side by side. And I think it really just seems like it's financially, man, why a film like The Irishman and a film like I don't know, The Avengers, whatever, couldn't play next to each other. You know, I mean, it's just, I mean, it really is just all about what's gonna get you know, butts and seats and stuff. And you know, I don't know how The Irishman did financially, because I mean, which is actually kind of ironic, because I just read a article yesterday from Scorsese, which I 100% agree with, where he said that box office results are pointless and you know, are insulting to a film's quality. I don't want to misquote him, so do yourself a favor and read that article. But I agree. I'm not trying to measure the film's success by that. It was just more so out of curiosity. But why these films can't exist side by side, I don't. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that The Wolf of Wall Street got the big theatrical release like it did. And I know that probably had bigger star power. You know, they had Leo, and I mean, even Jonah Hill, I think was probably something of a draw. But it is kind of crazy that The Irishman wouldn't get that. Even if you had an intermission, man, hey, why not? But I know it's kind of tricky and stuff. It is great to see. You know, man, there are certain epics you got to just see theatrically. I had mentioned before when I had seen the Ten Commandments, which may or may not have made my top 10 of 1956, if you want to go ahead and watch that video. But I saw that film theatrically for the first time, and it was such a joy to watch that theatrically, man. It's a long film too. It's about 4 hours, or maybe it might be even a little over 4 hours. I really don't remember, but it had an intermission, and it wasn't like the best. You know, unfortunately, a lot of these cinemas, they're not projecting these films. They're either not projecting it correctly, or they're not projecting it in the best restoration they can. And I know that was an issue a couple months ago, back in June, when Fathom Events was showing John Carpenter's The Thing, which I didn't see that then because I had already seen it theatrically before. But an acquaintance of mine went, and apparently there was some controversy about the film being presented incorrectly, and that following week they had to actually show a different version of it, or a different copy of it. But it's a lot of these, you know, there's a lot of these chain cinemas who are not gonna show these. I mean, the thing with Ten Commandments, they've just gotten a 4K, and they weren't showing the 4K. And I think because it was Fathom Events with TCM, they don't oftentimes show the best versions of the film, picture quality wise. And sometimes it's more noticeable than others. But I think the Ten Commandments really would have benefited from a better or a better presentation. And I don't know if these cinemas. I don't think a lot of them have 4K projectors yet, because a lot of the, unless it's like an, I mean, I don't know what IMAX projects in. I mean, that's a different thing altogether. But even when I see brand new films, um, they don't look. I don't know. They don't look 4K. I don't know what somebody who is more knowledgeable about film projecting. I mean, I can't stress enough. I really don't know much about digital and film and stuff. I mean, I know like the basics, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm some expert, because I'm definitely not. You know, I'm just a viewer, and sometimes when I watch a lot of films that say, you know, new 4K restoration or new 4K projection, then I see that it's just presented as is. I mean, it's noticeable, man. You know, the what was it? Well, I forgot what I was gonna bring up that that it was really noticeable. One time I remember I saw Lucio Fulci's Zombie theatrically. Actually, I've seen the film twice theatrically. One on film, on I think 35 millimeter. I don't actually know. It was on film, but I assume that's the one. And then one that was someone screwed up, man, because they played the film, then the DVD menu came up, and I was like, oh man, you know, I mean, I know they're probably just playing off the DVD anyways, but if I was running a cinema, man, I'd be a little more on that, you know. I go to some local cinemas, and there are some things that I definitely would change if I ran a cinema. Um, Never say never, man. Maybe it could happen, but I definitely think that if I ran a cinema, the experience and the quality of the films presented would be top priority above all else. You know, I'm not really interested in like a lot of these cinemas now that have like menus and stuff. You can imagine trying to watch some dark drama and you have the guy next to you slurping down pizza. I mean, come on, man. It's ridiculous. But hey, to each their own. As long as you're not loud during the movie, man, that's all I care about. I mean, theaters selling like nachos and stuff. I'm like, man, like it's the loudest goddamn food there is. What are you talking about? You know? Popcorn, I don't really care about. I don't really get popcorn at the cinema. If somebody else does, I'll have a little bit of it. But I when I go to the cinema, man, I get a coffee, and I try not to like drink too much of it too fast, because then I gotta take a piss. But you know, sometimes I'm better than others, and especially if it's a short film, I try not to go to the bathroom. But hey, man, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Um, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like popcorn that makes sense, man. That's a classic theatrical tradition. If people want to get it, hey, man, you popcorn and cinema are like bread and butter, man. You just when you think of one, you think of the other. But the the problem now is that I don't know, man. I was at the cinema the other day. I was at the cinema actually on Sunday. No, what was I? On Saturday. I apologize, man. I was going to see Smile, which is a new horror film. And which that was an interesting experience. Maybe I can talk about that. But yeah, I was just like, I think I was just looking at what they had. I don't know. Actually, you know what? It is funny because here's the thing. I just said I don't get popcorn at cinema, and that was the first time I got popcorn at cinema in a while, because I knew I didn't have any real investment in the film. I was mostly seeing it off a recommendation. So I thought, you know what, man, I'm gonna get myself a small popcorn. Why not, man? It's been a while. So contradicting myself there, but I was looking at the menu they had there, man. I was like, what the hell? They have mozzarella sticks. They got potato chips. I guess it makes sense. They got hot dogs. I mean, hot dogs and stuff has always been there. I get that. I mean, I get that. I mean, you ain't gonna be eating a hot dog loud, but they had like pizza and stuff there. I'm like, what is going on, man? This is insane. Which is not a big deal, man. Hey, man, if you're going to the cinema, you do what you got to do, man. I don't really care. I was listening to a one of the podcasts I listened to, and they were talking about how there was a podcast of stand-up kind of comic guys, and they were talking about some of their experiences and stuff, and how they don't like when they play at a club and they have like a full-on food menu there of just like pizza or like burgers or whatever, because they said it kind of like a distraction the experience. So I guess it's not just the cinema, man. It's all other kinds, but. You know, man, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I if I'm at the cinema, man, I'm there to watch the film, man. I ain't there to eat a goddamn buffet of food or, you know, shovel food down. I'm there to watch the film, man, and get on with my day. But, hey, man, to each their own. It's totally, it is what it is. But I was going to talk about a film, actually, that I was going to bring up earlier, and I'll bring it up because it might actually be streaming now. I don't know, but it's going to be streaming, well, by the time you hear this, it'll be you'll be listening to this in the far future probably. So if you have Mubi, One film I talked about briefly, which I believe is on there now, is Free Chol Soo Lee, which is a documentary, which I liked a lot, actually. I haven't really been hearing a lot of people talk about that, but very good documentary. I really like how it's really split into two halves. I was watching it thinking, like, all right, I know where this is going to go. It's going to be just a story about injustice or something like that, which is fine, but, I kind of want something more. But, and then I did get something more, and then the second half has a whole new spin to the story, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting, very cool, and it's the ending is great. So if you have the movie, Free Chol Soo Lee is on there. Check it out. It's pretty short. It's like an hour and a half, But the one film that I saw recently theatrically, which I think benefits from seeing theatrically, which might not be showing theatrically anymore. I don't know. It's not here, but it was interesting seeing the reaction to this film. How I think kinda you're really gonna be on board with it, or you're really not. But I really liked this film. Actually, liked it more than I thought I would. And this is from a filmmaker. What is their name? Martin Sims and or Martine Sims. I apologize. I don't know how to say their name. Anyways, this is The African Desperate, and this is a real cool film, man. This is one that is just short of being great. I do think it is a bit too long, and it's one of these films where the third act, man, it just keeps on freaking going. But this is a totally my kind of film, man. It's a comedy, but it's a surreal kind of almost nightmarish kind of descent into drugs over one night. We have this main character here. You think I would have gotten myself more prepared, but I'm not. You know what? We're 29 freaking episodes in, and I'm as prepared as I was on episode 1. Which is to say, not at all. Anyways, man, alright. We have the main character here, Diamond Stingley, plays the character Palace, and she is just graduated. She has a master in fine arts, and she's going to leave town that day to go back to, I forgot, I think it was like Chicago or something. I don't remember exactly, but there's going to have one last big party, and she's like, I don't really want to do it, man. I just want to kind of like just pack and hang out and stuff. But she eventually gets persuaded, and then the whole middle of the film is this just wild, just drug-induced craziness, and it is very humorous. When I say that, I've heard some comparisons to Climax, and I don't know if that's a really fair comparison other than the characters. I mean, Climax from beginning to end is very much a specific feeling and experience where even before we get to the actual main part of it, like even during the interviews and stuff, it has a really specific feeling, and then once you're actually in that building, it's like boom, it's all downhill. I don't know if you can hear the cat sneezing over there. Downhill in a good way. I think Climax is a very good film. But this film is definitely a lot more humorous. You're following Palace through this kind of crazy party and these other people that she's meeting up with, and this is a film that's a little tricky to recommend because you could find these characters annoying, which surprisingly I did. I remember when I first saw the trailer for this, I was like, this isn't gonna be my kind of film. There's gonna be annoying characters and. But the characters in this I thought were actually surprising and very charismatic and funny. One of the other actors in the film, Aaron Leyland, who looks just like Chloe Sevigny. I was like, I do a double take. I'm like, is that her, man? At least in some scenes. Some scenes it's probably more obvious, but she plays her friend Hannah, and a lot of these actors in the film, man. I think there's a lot of first time actors. No one I'd recognize, but a lot of these people, man, they have a lot of really interesting charisma. Where you're like, I'm not. I don't. This isn't. This. I would not be at this party at all, man. This is definitely not my kind of place to be. I'm not just taking drugs and stuff. I'm not gonna do any of that, man. I'm a-okay. But it's one of these things where if you met these people outside, you could be like, yeah, these are like all right people, man. They're kind of like they feel a little pretentious, a little like kind of hipstery, but they're still like kind of cool, charismatic people. I don't know if that's the actors or the characters or a mixture of both. Because there's not. The thing is that the film is more about kind of going through Palace's eyes and just kind of meeting with these other people. So you're not getting a whole lot of character depth from you're not getting a whole lot of like emotion out of the film, like in terms of like backstory or anything like that, which is fine. The film doesn't have to be. That might be a turnoff for some people if you're looking for something a little bit deeper. But I like how they make Palace, who's not a totally likable character either. She can be kind of like a pain in the ass sometimes, and there's an interesting dynamic between her and this guy, and there's a great scene that happens towards the end. I just found myself really enjoying the film. Like I said, it is just short of being great. I do think it is a little too long. It's an hour 37, but it does feel a bit longer. Where a film like this, because you're going through an experience, which is a problem that I had with Climax as well, at a certain point, I'm kind of wanting something more. I'm like, okay, I kind of get the hallucinatory nightmare logic, kind of not this isn't making sense. Like I get that, but at a certain point, I do want something a little bit more. And the film does go into something else, but I do think the third act, it goes on way too long. There's a point, there's a couple points where it probably should have just ended, but they keep showing another scene to the point where I was thinking like, I was thinking to myself comically, like, what, are they gonna have another scene after this? And then they did, and I'm just like, man, just this thing needs to be trimmed. If this was like an hour 20 or even like an hour 25, man, that'd be solid. Because it is a lot of fun. The editing in the film is really cool as well. The soundtrack as well. It's got a lot of I don't really know what kind of music it is. I guess like electronic or something. I don't really know much about like musical genres and terms. I like what I like, but there was just some really cool like hard kind of like beats in the film, if that makes sense. I think this is another film that benefits, like I said, from watching it in the cinema, because you are getting the visual experience, but you're also getting the auditory experience, man. I don't know if it was the film or the cinema decided to turn this film up, but there are times where they're playing a song and that music felt loud, man. And there are some movies I've seen at the cinema where I'm like, man, you need to turn this up. I remember seeing The Lighthouse there, and I could not hear a word of that film because the audio was so dang low. But here, I don't know who it was, man, but whoever controlled the audio in this film and in that cinema, God bless you, man. Let's have a cold drink sometime. But man, this is a film that I think, I hope doesn't get passed over, I should say, because a lot of people are going to really like this film, and a lot of people are not going to like the film, and that's why you should judge the film for yourself. But I found myself really enjoying it. I love films that kind of, what I've said before, that kind of put you in the head state of a character where you're feeling disoriented. You yourself as an audience member are feeling like you're on these drugs. And I watch these films sober. I ain't taking drugs or anything when I'm watching. I don't take drugs ever, man. But as I'm watching, I'm like, man, I'm starting to feel uneasy, but like in a good way, And I think that, this filmmaker, Martin Sims, I don't know how to say their name. I'm not familiar with their other work. They did one other film, Artbound, which is a TV series apparently, a compilation of several short form documentary pieces about artists and arts practice in the 11 counties of Southern California. I can't speak today, but either way, man. Keep an eye out on this one. If you have Mubi, it's going to be on there. It might already be on there. And while you're at it, watch Free Chol Soo Lee. And if you don't have Mubi, man, you're missing out, because it's not just great art films that are on there. There are some really cool films in there that I've been wanting to see for a while. Like when I finally got to see the film The Licorice Quartet, which I've been hearing about for years. When that showed up, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to watch this, and I really liked it a lot. It was a very good film. A lot of really cool stuff on there, man. I think Mubi is one of the top streaming services right now, and I'm loving seeing them get more theatrical films out, because I know they put out a lot of stuff too, but I miss a lot of it because they have so much on there. But I think, do like a free trial, man. See if it's your thing. Maybe it won't be your thing. Yeah, I just really love what they're doing. And also, I gotta say, check out their Mubi podcast. I know they do a different kind of theme every season, but their last season was all about different cinemas, and let me tell you, man, fantastic. The whole production on that was absolutely fantastic, and I would love to just see a documentary, like a film documentary about some of those cinemas, man, and some of just the great stories. So yeah, man, that's gonna be it for today. Live this weekend for Mike Schank, man. Put in the work, put in the effort, do it for Mike, man. Because anything can happen, any of us, anytime. Nothing is guaranteed in this life, man. But we're here. We're alive. And that's all that counts, man. I look at my cat over there right now. He's sleeping on the bed. He's living his best life, man. And I live my best life to treat him. Jeez Louise, man. If only you could see him right now. He looks so comfortable. All right, man. A lot's got to get done this weekend, so I'm not going to waste any more time. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Keep that Friday mentality 7 days a week. Get the work done. Work on your art. Watch some films. Eat some good food. All that good stuff, man. I will be back next week, and I hope you will too.